Now we come to the 23rd Samyutta called the Radha Samyutta. This Venerable Radha is supposed to be a monk who came into monkhood at an old age. The first sutta, 23.1 at Savatthi. Then the Venerable Radha approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and said to him, Venerable Sir, it is said, Mara, Mara. In what way, Venerable Sir, might Mara be? Mara here refers to Satan in the English translation. But here, in this sutta, Mara refers more to Marana. Marana means death. Death. Pali word Marana means death. And the Buddha said, when there is body Radha, there might be Mara, or the killer, or the one who is killed. Therefore, Radha, see the body as Mara, see it as the killer, see it as the one who is killed. See it as a disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as real misery. Those who see it thus, see rightly. You stop here for a moment. That day we read one sutta about, I think was it Yamaka, who had the wrong view that when an Arahant dies, he passes away and is totally annihilated. Then towards the end, Venerable Sariputta gave a simile of rich man. Somebody wanted to kill this rich man, so he planned his scheme and went to work as a servant for this rich man and served him very well until the rich man had total trust in him. So when he was together with this rich man in a lonely place, he took the opportunity to stab and kill the rich man. So the Venerable Sariputta says, in the same way, these five aggregates, we have trusted the five aggregates so much, just like the rich man trusting that servant. So one day, when we are old, then the five aggregates will kill us, just like the killer killing that rich man. So that's why Buddha says, see body as the killer, or on the other hand, you can also see it as the one who is killed. Similarly, when there is feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, Radha, there might be Mara, or the killer, or the one who is killed. Therefore, Radha, see the aggregates as Mara, see them as the killer, see them as the ones who are killed. See them as a disease, tumor, as a dart, as misery, as real misery. Those who see it thus see rightly. And he asked, what, Venerable Sir, is the purpose of seeing rightly? The purpose of seeing rightly, Radha, is revulsion. Seeing rightly is also can be said to be seeing clearly as they really are. So when you see the five aggregates really clearly as they really are, then you experience revulsion or disenchantment. And what, Venerable Sir, is the purpose of revulsion? The purpose of revulsion is dispassion. And what, Venerable Sir, is the purpose of dispassion? The purpose of dispassion is liberation. And what, Venerable Sir, is the purpose of liberation? The purpose of liberation is Nibbana. And what, Venerable Sir, is the purpose of Nibbana? And the Buddha said, you have gone beyond the range of questioning, Radha. You weren't able to grasp the limit to questioning. For Radha, the holy life is lived with Nibbana as its ground, Nibbana as its destination, Nibbana as its final goal. That's the end of the sutta. In the sutta, the Buddha said, Nibbanang paramang sukhang. Nibbana is the greatest bliss. When we attain Nibbana, we have no suffering. So that's why we want to attain Nibbana, because there's no suffering. If there's suffering, why do we want Nibbana? The next sutta. So here you see this sutta, what we just read, also concerns the five aggregates. So when I first introduced the book, I said that the Khanda Samyutta occupied 2/3 of the book, and furthermore, another 3 Samyuttas have something to do with the 5 Khandas also. 23.2 at Savatthi. Sitting to one side, the Venerable Radha said to the Blessed One, Venerable Sir, it is said, a being. In what way, Venerable Sir, is one called a being? And the translation is, one is stuck, Radha, tightly stuck in desire, lust, delight and craving for body. Therefore one is called a being. Stuck is not a very good translation. It is attached. You see this word being, actually there's a play of words here. The word, Pali word for being is satta. In Sanskrit is sattva, satta. And satta happens to be a past participle of sajati. The word sajati means attached or stuck. So satta being a past participle of sajati, it also means attached or stuck. Also means being. So the Buddha says a being is so called because it is attached, tightly attached in desire, lust, delight and craving for body. Therefore one is called a being. One is attached, tightly attached in desire, lust, delight and craving for feeling, for perception, for volition, for consciousness. Therefore one is called a being. Suppose, Radha, some little boys or girls are playing with sand castles. So long as they are not devoid of lust, desire, affection, thirst, passion and craving for those sand castles, they cherish them, play with them, treasure them and treat them possessively. For when those little boys or girls lose their lust, desire, affection, thirst, passion and craving for those sand castles, then they scatter them with their hands and feet, demolish them, shatter them and put them out of play. So too, Radha, scatter body, demolish it, shatter it, put it out of play, practice for the destruction of craving. Similarly, scatter feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, demolish them, shatter them, put them out of play, practice for the destruction of craving. For the destruction of craving, Radha, is Nibbana. It's the end of the sutta. So the simile given here is also famous simile. Children are playing with sand castles. As long as they are interested in these sand castles, they are very attached to them. But after playing for a long time, they get tired of them. And then they use their hands and feet and demolish them. So in the same way, as we go on the round of samsara, we treasure our 5 khandhas, 5 aggregates, and we like to play with them because they are a source of enjoyment, a source of happiness. But unfortunately, because they are also a source of pain, suffering, and then when we go through the round of rebirths, every time we come, we suffer, and slowly we become spiritually mature. And one day when we are mature enough, just like these children scattering all the sand castles, we will also lose our interest in the 5 aggregates, and we will practice to let go of them, demolish them. So the other suttas in this Samyutta are a bit similar. So I won't go to the other suttas. Now I come to chapter 24, Ditthi Samyutta, discourses concerning views. Ditthi means views. You can have right views, Samaditthi, or you can have wrong views, Miccha Ditthi. 24.2 at Savatthi, Buddha said, monks, when what exists, by clinging to what, by adhering to what, does such a view as this arise? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. And they said, Venerable Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One. And the Buddha said, when there is body, monks, by clinging to body, by adhering to body, such a view as this arises, this is mine, this I am, this is myself. Similarly, when there is feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, by clinging to these aggregates, by adhering to these aggregates, such a view as this arises, this is mine, this I am, this is myself. When monks, a noble disciple, has abandoned perplexity in these 6 cases, he is then called a noble disciple who is a stream enterer, has abandoned perplexity in these 6 cases, and then when further he has abandoned perplexity about suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the way leading to the cessation of suffering, he is then called a noble disciple who is a stream enterer, no longer bound to the netherworld, fixed in destiny, with enlightenment as his destination. So actually, because we attach to the 5 aggregates as I and mine, so we have a perception that I am or I exist. And once you have the perception that I exist, then you have many views, and there becomes a proliferation of views. 24.5 at Savatthi. Monks, when what exists, by clinging to what, by adhering to what, does such a view as this arise? There is nothing given, nothing offered, nothing presented in charity, no fruit or result of good and bad actions, no this world, no other world, no mother, no father, no beings who are reborn spontaneously, no ascetics and Brahmins, faring and practicing rightly in the world, who, having realized this world and the other world for themselves by direct knowledge, make them known to others. This person consists of the 4 great elements. When one dies, earth returns to and merges with the earth body. Water returns to and merges with the water body. Fire returns to and merges with the fire body. Air returns to and merges with the air body. The faculties are transferred to space. 4 men with the bier as 5th carry away the corpse. The funeral orations last as far as the charnel ground. The bones whiten. Burnt offerings end with ashes. Giving is a doctrine of fools. When anyone asserts the doctrine that there is giving and the like, it is empty, false prattle. Fools and the wise are alike cut off and perish with the breakup of the body. After death they do not exist. Let's stop here for a moment. Buddha is asking, this view, this is one of the wrong views that existed among the external sects, the other religions during the Buddha's time, that there is no charity, there is no point of doing charity, that there is no karma, that when you pass away, everything comes to an end, there is no other world, etc. So the Buddha is asking his disciples, why is it, how is it that such a view comes about? And they said, Venerable Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One. And then the Buddha said, when there is body, monks, when there is feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, by clinging to these 5 aggregates, by adhering to these 5 aggregates, such a view as this arises. When monks, a noble disciple, has abandoned perplexity in these 6 cases, and when further he has abandoned perplexity about suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the way leading to the cessation of suffering, he is then called a noble disciple who is a stream enterer, no longer bound to the nether world, fixed in destiny, with enlightenment as his destination. So basically the Buddha says, because of our attachment to the 5 aggregates, we have all these many types of views. There's another type mentioned in another sutta, 24.6. I just read the view just for your knowledge. It's one of the wrong views. When one acts or makes others act, when one mutilates or makes others mutilate, when one tortures or makes others inflict torture, when one inflicts sorrow and makes others inflict sorrow, when one oppresses and makes others inflict oppression, when one intimidates or makes others inflict intimidation, when one destroys life, takes what is not given, breaks into houses, plunders wealth, commits burglary, ambushes highways, seduces another's wife, utters falsehood, no evil is done by the doer. If with a razor-rimmed wheel one were to make the living beings of this earth into one mass of flesh, into one heap of flesh, because of this there would be no evil and no outcome of evil. If one were to go along the south bank of the Ganges, killing and slaughtering, mutilating and making others mutilate, torturing and making others inflict torture, because of this there will be no evil and no outcome of evil. So you see, this is such a stupid teaching, but at that time people were very ignorant and they had many followers also. There are a lot of these, there were at that time 6 famous external sect teachers, and they had all these type of wrong views. So no point to go through all these silly views. We go to the next Samyutta, chapter 25, Okkanti Samyutta, discourses about entering. Entering is a stream entry. The first sutta, quite an important sutta, 25.1 at Savatthi. The Buddha said, "Monks, the eye is impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. The ear, similarly, the ear, nose, tongue, body and mind are impermanent, changing, becoming otherwise. One who places faith in these teachings, resolves on them, thus is called a faith follower, one who has entered the fixed course of rightness, entered the plane of superior persons, transcended the plane of the worldlings, Putujana. He is incapable of doing any deed by reason of which he might be reborn in hell, in the animal realm, or in the domain of ghosts. He is incapable of passing away without having realized the fruit of stream entry. One for whom these teachings are accepted thus, after being pondered to a sufficient degree with wisdom, is called a Dhamma follower, one who has entered the fixed course of rightness, entered the plane of superior persons, transcended the plane of the worldlings. He is incapable of doing any deed, by reason of which he might be reborn in hell, in the animal realm, or in the domain of ghosts. He is incapable of passing away without having realized the fruit of stream entry. One who knows and sees these teachings thus is called a stream enterer, no longer bound to the nether world, fixed in destiny, with enlightenment as his destination." The sutta is quite interesting. I didn't realize it past 1 hour. This sutta is quite interesting and important. It's talking about 2 types of persons who attain stream entry, the first fruit. One is because of faith. He has, having heard the Dhamma, he has faith in the Dhamma. And this faith, saddha, comes from understanding the Dhamma. So because he has seen the Dhamma and he has faith, there's one type of stream enterer. The other type is called, the first one is called the faith follower. The second one is called the Dhamma follower. This Dhamma follower is also the same in the sense that he has listened to the Dhamma and seen the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, and because of his wisdom, he's called a Dhamma follower. So the first one, even though he also has wisdom, but he has more faith, that's why the first one is called a faith follower. The second one, he has more wisdom, that's why it's called a Dhamma follower. Now, once he has attained stream entry from having heard the Dhamma and understood the basic Dhamma on the Four Noble Truths, then he has transcended the plane of the ordinary worldling. That means he is on the way out of samsara, on the way out of the round of rebirths. And it is impossible for him to be reborn in the 3 woeful planes. In the earliest suttas, the Buddha always talked about 3 woeful planes: hell, animal, and ghost realm. Later books added one more, the asuras. And this adding of the asuras you can find in Mahayana books, and you can also find in Abhidhamma and also in commentaries. So that means those are all later books. Yeah. So also here it says another important point that once you attain stream entry, you must attain the fruit of stream entry. And the latest is when a person passes away. So after he attains the path, it takes some time to change to fruit. And the latest is when he dies. So although here he's talking about the first path person automatically becoming the first fruit at the latest when he dies. From my understanding of the suttas, I think it also applies to the second path, the third path, and the fourth path. When a person attains the path, after some time, it turns to fruit. So I have to stop here for today because we have gone 9 minutes past 1 hour. Anything to discuss? It might interest you to know that this chapter on the Khanda Sangyutta, the 5 aggregates, have taken about 6 nights to explain. 6 nights. Previously, when I gave this talk in Penang a few years ago, it took me 3 nights, I think, 3 hours, but now it's 6 hours, so more detailed. No. When he hears the Dhamma and he understands, at that time he becomes a stream enterer. I know. After you understand, you attain stream entry, but after the understanding, you will automatically cultivate. There are cases where a person never met the Buddha before, and then he met the Buddha, and the Buddha taught him the Four Noble Truths, and then he attained stream entry. Then after that only he practices. Yeah? You're referring to who? Yeah, but how many people listen to the suttas? That one is possible. If they take the trouble to go and listen to the Sangyutta Nikaya and the Anguttara Nikaya, the chances of them attaining stream entry is quite good. That's why the Buddha says, all the giving of Dhamma surpasses all types of giving. It gives the greatest benefit. Yeah. So the later books, they put the Buddha on such a high pedestal, and they say Buddha does not have these human characteristics. Okay, shall we stop here tonight?